Learning about the origins of a given artist's stage name is a funny thing. Recently, I was watching wrestling and my friend asked if Seth Rollins' real name is Seth Rollins, and I thought, yeah, probably. I mean, why wouldn't it be? Seth Rollins sounds too plain and normal for a guy that dresses like this. But nope. Colby Lopez. Okay, sure, but why? Today I will answer that question for a bunch of famous musicians. I made a list of 100 popular musical names composed of a little bit of everything. Legends, up-and-comers, bands, solo acts, and so on. Here are my findings of why all of these people called themselves blank. P.S. This is the first half of the list, and the next one will be out next week. But first, I want to thank today's sponsor, Universe. Helping boost DIY indie musicians is one of the main goals of this channel, and I seriously think that anyone that fits that description could really benefit from using Universe. In today's world, artists can't just be artists, especially when you're just starting out. And having your own website with all your links, your music, and so on could give you a big step up on the competition. Universe is the best, most user-friendly website builder that I've ever used, and I'm thrilled to work with them. You can start from scratch, use one of their many templates, or their AI tool Gus that is amazing. Editing your site on their app with the whole grid system that they use is smooth as can be. You can hyper-customize everything with stuff that you make on your own, or they have these very tasteful gradients, the fonts are great, and you can add cute little shapes that give a charming feel to everything, and if you want a bigger workspace, you can edit from your computer too. With Universe Pro, you can get your own .com domain without the Universe branding attached to it. You'll unlock custom menu styles and access to helpful analytics. Build a site with Universe by following this link, or get 25% off your first year of Universe Pro using my code ALPHOMedia25. Both of these links will be in the description down below. Adele's real name is Adele Atkins. She thought that her last name sounded quote-unquote drab, and she likes that her stage name still feels like her name. Also, apparently the correct pronunciation is Adele. After almost choosing Wild as her stage surname, Alicia Cook's manager was having a dream about needing to open a locked briefcase. He was talking about needing the keys, and the two realized that Alicia Keys could be a piano pun and also a symbol of opening doors. Formerly known as Breezy Lovejoy, Brandon Paak Anderson put his last name first, got rid of the Brandon, and added a dot to stand for the attention to detail that he puts into his craft. Richard David James got the name Aphex Twin by taking a brand of audio signal processing equipment, Aphex Systems Limited, and combining that initial word with an ode to his older brother, also named Richard, that tragically died at birth. Arcade Fire got their name from a story that Win Butler's childhood bully would tell about a fire in an arcade. Ariana Grande's real name is Ariana Grande Butera, with Grande being her mother's maiden name. Apparently her grandpa would pronounce it Grandy though. So that's interesting. Riley King was a DJ that got the nickname Beale Street Blues Boy, which got shortened to Blues Boy, which became BB, and finally BB King. Beck is the first name of Beck David Campbell, but early in life he and his family decided to start spelling it with a C because too many people were mispronouncing the BEK version. Beyonce Knowles famously uses that incredible real first name, but the backstory is that it's her mom's maiden name, and she wanted to pass it down after she married Beyonce's father, Matthew Knowles. However, there's a strange discrepancy in the family about spelling, because mom's maiden name was actually supposed to be Beyonce, but a racist clerk at the hospital wanted to mess with her birth certificate. Billie Eilish Pirate Baird O'Connell obviously dropped both parents' last names, then Pirate, which was a nickname derived from a 4-year-old Phineas's special interest at the time, and then Billie came from her grandfather William, who died shortly before she came into the world. To remind you that a lot of famous people's names are still their given names, Billy Joel was simply William Joel, and I'm still waiting for a gigantic Colby Lopez to Seth Rollins-esque change on this list. How about Bob Dylan, birth name Robert Zimmerman, who swapped out his last name for that of the Irish poet Dylan Thomas? It is said that Robert Nesta Marley was born Nesta Robert Marley, but sometime during his childhood, Nesta seemed like too much of a girl's name, so Robert prevailed, and then came Bob. Also, people forget that that last name is Old English, and Bob Marley's dad was a white guy from Sussex. Bon hiver is derived from the French phrase bon hiver, which means good winter. Justin Vernon, the Wisconsin native, knows plenty about the cold. Bruno Mars has one of my favorite origin stories. Peter Gene Hernandez apparently looked a lot like wrestling champion Bruno Sammartino, and then Mars was added because his family said that his talent was out of this world. Chancellor Jonathan Bennett shortened his name to Chance, and the other 2/3 came from him wanting to change the stigma around what a quote-unquote rapper can be. Probably the most well-known anecdote on here is Donald Glover inputting his name into an online Wu-Tang Clan name generator, and Childish Gambino is what came out. Coldplay was originally called Starfish, a friend's band was called Coldplay, and eventually Starfish asked if they could have their name instead. Our favorite French robot started out as Darlin as a shout out to the Beach Boys, but after a negative review in Melody Maker described them as daft punky thrash, the world got Daft Punk. David Bowie was born with the same name as a member of the Monkees and distinguished himself by changing his last name to that of the Bowie knife. Joel Thomas Zimmerman wanted to reference the dead mouse that he found on his computer, so that's what he called himself. And the 5 is just for aesthetic purposes, so it looks like an online username. Aubrey Drake Graham decided to go with his middle name for his rap career instead of his first or last name, and I can't imagine why. Ed Sheeran is Edward Sheeran. There we go. Elton John had the horrifyingly British name of Reginald Kenneth Dwight, so he got his first name from saxophonist Elton Dean and last name from blues singer Long John Baldry. Eminem used to go by the moniker M&M, alluding to his initials Marshall Mathers, but changed it to the smoother phonetic name we all know today. Talia Debrett Barnett has stated in multiple interviews that the FKA does not stand for formerly known as, it's just a random assortment of letters that she likes. Twigs is apparently a nod to how her joints crack, like the sounds of twigs breaking. Fleetwood Mac is a combination of founding members Mick Fleetwood and John McVie. Florence Welch made music with a friend who they called Isabella Machine, and Florence was Florence Robot. Time went on, and as she was on her way to her first gig, she thought, I don't have a name, okay, I'll be Florence Robot is a Machine. But that was a bit too clunky, thus Florence and the Machine. When Dave Grohl went solo in 1994, he created a record completely by himself, but he wanted audiences to think that it was made by a group of people, not just the drummer from Nirvana. He was reading a book about World War I and saw that they called unidentified flying objects Foo Fighters, and the rest was history. Christopher Edwin Brew adopted the stage name Frank Ocean in reference to Frank Sinatra and George Clooney's character in Ocean's 11. Once there was a boy named Farrokh Bulsara from the island of Zanzibar. Growing up, people started calling him Freddie, and after writing the line, Mother Mercury, look what you've done to me, for a song called My Fairy King, he decided to use Mercury as his last name. There are reportedly a few different reasons why Damon Albarn and Jamie Hewlett settled on the band name Gorillaz. First, they didn't want their names attached to this virtual band because that would break the illusion of them being real. Second, gorilla sounds like gorilla, the G-U-E-R version, as in something unconventional and rebellious. Third, they were both born in the year of the monkey. And finally, it was a dig at Oasis because one time the Gallaghers referred to themselves as the Beatles and Rolling Stones, while Blur, Damon and Jamie's former band, were just the Monkees. monkeys. Claire Boucher named herself after a joke she had placed on her MySpace profile. You could list 3 genres of music that you would fall under. She thought grime sounded funny, so she put it for all 3 slots, and therefore she was grime but plural. Grimes. Guns N' Roses was named after 2 of the founding members' former bands, LA Guns and Hollywood Rose. Ashley Nicolette Frangipane made an anagram of her first name that also happened to be a subway stop in Brooklyn, Halsey. Herbie Hancock was born Herbert Hancock. There's another easy one. The very infamous Imagine Dragons also got their name from an anagram that meant a lot to the group, but the exact phrase still hasn't been revealed by the band. Fans have theorized that the original meaning is ragged insomnia. Jose Alvaro Osorio Balvin simply abbreviated his first name and took his last name. While her name might sound too good to be true, Janelle Monáe's birth name was Janelle Monáe Robinson. Sean Corey Carter grew up with people calling him Jazzy, and then the hyphen paid homage to his mentor Jazz-O, so he became Jay-Z. As a child, Scotty Moorhead was raised by his mother and stepfather, and it took him a while for him to find out that his name was actually Jeffrey Buckley. He didn't have much of a relationship with his biological father, but wanted to honor him in his stage name. Interestingly enough, Jimi Hendrix's birth name was Johnny Hendrix, but early on his parents changed his name to James, and that's how we got Jimmy. John Roger Stevens was in the studio with Kanye West and spoken word poet Jay Ivey, who kept calling him the Legend because of his old school soul sound. Then he became John Legend. Ray and Carrie Cash couldn't decide on what to name their son, John or Ray, so they actually settled on his legal birth name being JR. Not even John Ray, literally J.R. Cash. John seemed to take priority, so soon enough he became Johnny Cash. Justin Drew Bieber is the guy's real name, but did you know that Bieber means beaver in German? That moment from The Office when Dwight calls him Justice Beaver has taken on a whole new meaning in my head. Here we have 3 in a row of Casey Musgraves, Kesha Siebert, and Kendrick Lamar Duckworth, all using some or all of their real names as their stage names. And finally, for the first half of this list, Stephanie Joanne Angelina Germanotta got her name from the Queen song Radio Gaga. Her producer, Rob Fusari, compared her to Freddie Mercury, and Lady Gaga was born. I'll be back with the second half of this list next week, and if people like these videos, then maybe we can do a whole series of them. Thanks for watching. Hey, thank you for watching that video. If you want to support the channel, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. You can follow me on social media at RenshawHS. You can support me on Patreon, buy my merch, or on Twitch. Thank you again. I'll see you soon.